Rita Martinez, and all the tenant advocates for joining us today. Because we are here today to say loud and clear, there is no excuse for a single person to go hungry in one of the wealthiest cities in the world. But throughout this pandemic, we've left more than 1 million of our fellow New Yorkers vulnerable to malnutrition and food insecurity. And our neighbors in NYCHA have been on the front lines of this crisis. We know that NYCHA residents suffered the health and economic brunt of the pandemic, with disproportionate fatalities, illnesses, and job losses. But let's be clear, the conditions that left NYCHA residents overexposed have been allowed to fester for decades. Food insecurity is a policy choice. Food deserts are a policy choice. We need to massively invest in our food systems and safety net to ensure New Yorkers have access to healthy food. But there are steps that we can take right now, today, to increase access to affordable, healthy food for NYCHA residents. And today, I am really proud to stand with NYCHA residents from across East Harlem, El Barrio, calling on NYCHA to create a shared grocery delivery center program. Give it up for that program. Online food retailers can help families in NYCHA access nutritious food options that aren't available in so many of our city's food deserts. But buying food online comes with purchasing minimums and steep delivery charges that families just can't afford. They can't afford it right now. This is an economic crisis. Folks are barely making ends meet. We need to make sure that families have opportunity for their hard-earned dollars that can go to food, not delivery fees. So if you have minimum income, you can't have the fees eat it up. You got to make sure that the money goes for the food and the families. So our shared grocery delivery centers at NYCHA developments would allow residents to combine their purchasing power, pick up their groceries in one central convenient location, and avoid the minimum and the charges. One central delivery center that would allow us to bring the food and not eat it up through delivery fees and all that. NYCHA should partner with online retailers to waive those fees for good. It's good for business not to have to make several delivery stops, and it's very good for the residents. It's just good common sense. And the shared delivery method will reduce delivery truck idling and traffic congestion near our public housing developments that are already dealing with poor air quality and high asthma rates. We need to fight food insecurity with every tool we have. 1.6 million New Yorkers are going to bed hungry each night. It's clear that the city's food programs are not reaching folks most in need. We have to change government policies to address these inequities, and that's why we've called for the city to create a $25 million food program to also serve undocumented New Yorkers left out of the federal and state safety net programs. My plan also calls for expanded SNAP outreach and purchasing power and more cultural and linguistic competence in the current city food programming. The litmus test of the recovery will be how we center the most vulnerable among us. If we're serious about fighting hunger in New York City, let's start thinking creatively. Hunger does not discriminate, and neither should we. I urge NYCHA to implement this program and help put healthy food on the table for our residents. And part of what we're doing here today is bringing people together who understand issues of food insecurity. It starts with our tenants. But we have somebody here today who has the best track record in our city when it comes to fighting food insecurity, fighting to put healthy food on the table, somebody who's been advocating on this issue before anyone in government knew it was a problem. And I am really glad and surprised and happy that he's here. He once honored me for my work back in the day, and that was a big deal. My now wife came and actually saw me get honored. But he is the CEO of Hunger Free America. His name is Joel Berg, and he is the national leader on these food issues. And Joel, I'm so glad you're here. Please come up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. I'm Joel Berg, Joelberg, CEO of Hunger Free America. Now that radio stations have websites, you need to write that out too. First of all, I want to thank the Comptroller for his whole career of fighting for hungry New Yorkers. We've worked with him governmentally for a very long time, and I also want to thank his staff, particularly Jessica Silver, who interned to us a long time ago. Secure, competent public servants have excellent staff around them for the long term, and so they understand that's a good reflection on them. So I appreciate you and your staff support. Look, this is something we've been fighting for a long time. It's great to have the Comptroller of the City of New York pushing for this, talk about the importance of food deliveries. A lot of people who are in low-income neighborhoods have compromised immune systems because of poor health care, so it's even more important to have things brought to them than having them forced to go out and having other risks. As the Comptroller said, this would be good for the food companies and good for the residents because you prefer food coming to you and the healthier food. And if this works, we can really reduce food deserts in some of the lowest income, most challenged neighborhoods of New York City. I used to work for the Department of Agriculture in the 90s. We're also pushing them to expand programs like this. The SNAP program feeds 1.6 million people a month in New York City, hundreds of millions of dollars. So a combination of our push on the federal government, the push on the city government to be able to use those benefits and eventually WIC benefits to bring food here, be great for the people in public housing and eventually in neighborhoods throughout New York City. So thank you, Mr. Comptroller, for pushing this.
Thank you, Joel, and thank you for joining us today. I wanna just hear quickly from the people who know very much what's happening on the ground, especially here in Lehman Towers. And let me introduce Patricia Burns, the TA president here at Lehman. Patricia, please come up.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi, I am Patricia Burns. I'm the Tenants Association president of Lehman. Residents have been struggling to make ends meet to get affordable food. Healthy food, local food is a challenge. Practically, seniors and folks have hard times getting out, trying to get food during this pandemic. Now, recovering from this, having no fee, no grocery deliveries available right now, our development could help a lot of people, especially SNAP benefits, online. So I'd like to see NYCHA try to produce this proposal. So we need as many ways to get healthy food and affordable that we can afford in NYCHA. So I would like for this proposal to go through for all NYCHA residents because it really, really will help us out, especially our seniors and the ones that can't get out. So I hope this proposal will go through. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Patricia. And let's call up the treasurer at... Oh, the secretary. I was going to say if the treasurer was here, that's what I do. Okay. So,
she's here.
Is Narita here? Where's she? Oh, Madam Secretary, I thought you were the treasurer. You know, that's what I do for the city. But, Madam Secretary, please come up. Narita Martinez, please.
Thank you. Mi nombre es Nereida Martínez. Yo vivo aquí en Lehman Houses. Mucha gente en esta comunidad pasa mucho trabajo durante la pandemia. Suficientes alimentos saludables y asquerinos. Si NYCHA da la autoridad, la vivienda pública, podemos hacer posible este programa de entrega de alimentos, creada más opciones de alimentos y a mantener el acceso lo que cual tanto necesitamos. Me gustaría ver un programa como esta en el edificio de NYCHA, que vivo. Thank you so much.
Jen. Thank you very much. All right, any members of the press have questions with our proposal that will go a long way to getting people the fresh food they need in NYCHA developments?
Make it happen. I mean, it's a proposal, but how long would it take? I mean, there's a need, according to you. So what's the process and what's the feedback so far?
Well, look, part of what we have to do for the recovery is think out of the box. And part of what we've seen during the pandemic was that food insecurity was real for people who live in NYCHA, for frontline workers who didn't have access to delivery services because the fees were too damn high. And we now know going forward that we can change that. My plan right now is to provide a $25 million fund to combat food insecurity, but also we can use this city budget to waive the fees, to work with NYCHA to centralize delivery centers in the developments, which would also make us pollution free. We don't need deliveries coming every single day around the city. If we can lessen the trucks and also give people access to the produce and the healthy food, this is a win-win. It doesn't take a lot. It takes NYCHA to coordinate with city agencies. It takes us funding, but this is all within what we should be doing for New York's greatest comeback, which has to happen right now. The reason we're here today is we're putting forth in the Comptroller's office a sensible budget request that will go a long way to meeting the needs of people. You know, memories fade, but you have to remember that during the pandemic, people who had great wealth were able to get great deliveries. They didn't worry about going hungry. Whatever the fee costs, whatever the delivery minimum was, wealthy people were ever to pay. What we don't fully appreciate is how people had to ration their food, worry if they could go out and come back safely. We didn't have masks. We didn't have vaccinations. And we can never put our people in a vulnerable position again. And that's why we come up with this proposal. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Memorial Day. Be safe.